Bringing you the very latest from here at home and across the world. This is Tuesday night's edition of Primetime News live on News First. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
And I'm Ramesh Rugal Bandara. Let's start off with a look at your headlines tonight. Heavy rains caused havoc in several areas. 21,000 persons affected. Landslide claims the lives of a father and two sons in Passara. And the president says that the history of the country cannot be erased with money.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa says that no external force can erase the great history of this country. The president made this statement at a function held at the Department of National Archives this morning.
A new building of the Department of National Archives was declared open by the President at the department premises today. Speaking at the opening, the head of state said an era has dawned where history is being measured by money. The President noted that it is pointless to attempt to rebuild or rewrite the history of a country using wealth. This new building was constructed at a cost of 740 million rupees with the aim of expanding the Department of National Archives. A book containing the history of the Department of National Archives and an album containing facts on D.A. Rajapaksa were presented to the President. Thereafter, certificates were presented to the employees of the Department of National Archives.
Deputy Speaker of Parliament Chandima Veerakudi confirmed that the report of the Parliamentary Select Committee that examined the impeachment motion was obtained by the attorneys that represented the Chief Justice. The Deputy Speaker made this comment at a press conference held at the Parliamentary Complex today.
The report of the Parliamentary Select Committee has been released in all three languages, and we are aware that copies have also been submitted to the lawyers for the Chief Justice.
පිටපත් ලබාගෙන ඇති බව දැනුවත් කොට තිබෙනවා. අක්‍රේන්චකාරතුමියගේ සහභාගී වෙච්ච නීතිඥයින්ට මේ කමිටුවේදී ඒගොල්ලන්ට පොඩක් දෝෂාරෝපණය කළා කියලා එම කතානායකතුමාට පැමිණිලි කරලා තියෙනවා. මේ තත්ත්වය කොහොමද මේ වෙනකොට? දැන් කතානායකතුමාට ලිපියක් එවලා තිනවා අපි පිළිගන්නවා සති කිහිපයකට පස්සේ. ඉතින් ඒ ලිපිය එවන අවස්ථාව වෙන විට
We accept that a letter was sent to the Speaker several weeks later. When that letter was addressed, there was no committee in session. Several parliamentarians have already spoken regarding this in Parliament. If they raise a privilege issue in Parliament saying that their privileges were violated, then we can report to the Privileges Committee regarding the lawyer Neelakandan and then decide on a future course of action. But this will only initiate from the time that a privilege issue is raised. The letter was sent long after the committee had reached its decisions.
The police says that it has launched an investigation into the incident where attorney-at-law Gunaratna Vaninayaka was threatened. A senior police officer in the area noted that they have obtained fingerprints and 7 statements in this regard. Attorney Gunaratna Vaninayaka had lodged a complaint with the police stating that 4 individuals had stopped his vehicle and threatened him opposite his house in Boralas Gamwa last evening. Meanwhile, the incident was also spoken of at 2 media briefings of the United National Party.
The unidentified gunmen had arrived in a white van. Ordinary people cannot carry out such an act in broad daylight in front of hundreds of people. Recently, a similar incident occurred where the Secretary of the Judicial Service Commission, Manjula Tilakaratne, was attacked. Those responsible have not been identified as yet. In addition, there is an international voice rising against the pressure exerted on the judiciary. This is because democratic nations will never accept such acts.
නීතිඥ ගුණරත්න වන්නිනායක මහතාට එවැනි තර්ජනයක් කිරීම මම විශ්වාස කරනවා
I believe the threat directed at Attorney at Law Gunaratna Waninayaka was made to frighten the lawyers who are standing for justice in the country and those who are against the impeachment motion. This is not the first incident. You may remember how thugs assaulted the Secretary of the Judicial Service Commission, Manjula Tilakaratne. The police have not been able to unearth any information on the attackers, so it will not be surprising if those involved in the incident concerning Gunaratna Waninayaka are also not arrested.
Views were also expressed regarding this incident at a media briefing convened today.
In the context of the current situation in the country, it has become dangerous for a lawyer to express his views. This right has been taken away. Therefore, the Colombo Lawyers Association requested the Inspector General of Police today to conduct a fair and proper investigation into this incident and bring the criminals to court. If armed men have the ability to carry out something like this between 4 and 5 in the evening, then it is a very dangerous trend. We are asking the relevant authorities to immediately arrest those responsible and ensure the right of not only lawyers but all citizens of this country to live without fear and suspicion.
Let's now take a look at the newspaper cartoon of the day.
The first session of the joint working group established by Australia and Sri Lanka to combat people smuggling was held under the auspices of the co-chairs Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa and the Acting Secretary for the Department of Immigration and Citizenship of Australia, Martin Bowles. Speaking at a media briefing convened today, Bowles and the Sri Lankan High Commissioner to Australia, Admiral Thisara Samarasinghe, responded to allegations that those deported from Australia are being harassed upon arrival in Sri Lanka.
We had a range of discussions yesterday in the joint working group around the cooperation between both countries around the returns from Australia and the readmission into Sri Lanka. There may be commentary in some places, but the experience that we have had does not bring out some of those issues. We work very closely with the Sri Lankan officials here on the readmission processes, and we will continue to do that at the highest levels of both governments.
That depends on what you call harassment. You come to the airport, your name and details are taken, questioned, and put to legal process. And when we get to know that people who return are having criminal records, or they are the facilitators of the human smugglers, they are the people who have risked the lives of hundreds of people to risk their lives at sea as the coxswain or the captain or the crew of the vessel. I mean, any person will realize that's a serious crime.
On to one of our headline stories this evening. The Disaster Management Centre states that 13 persons have died owing to floods and landslides caused by the inclement weather. Our correspondents state that many areas are inundated following torrential rain in the past few days.
Polonnaruwa, Arlagangwila and Pimburattawa were inundated owing to heavy rains. Our correspondent noted that 2 boats were dispatched to rescue those trapped by the floods. Several villages and roads in Monragala were inundated owing to heavy rains. The doctors' quarters of the Sirigala District Hospital were also underwater. This is the manner in which the Bibila Budulu Gammana Road was inundated. Gale force winds brought down a bow tree at the Lahugala Kirivehera Viharaya, damaging the temple and the Viharaya. Transport along the Ampara Kandy Road was hampered owing to the Mangala Gamma Oya overflowing. The Polonnaruwa Batticaloa road was also underwater, and the Sri Lanka Army took measures to provide transport to the locals in the area. Lowlands in Eragama and Ampara were also underwater. 10 spill gates of the Rajangani reservoir were opened by 5 feet each to release excess water. Meanwhile, the 2 spill gates of the Kalawava were opened 14 feet each. Heavy rains also resulted in the Haliala-Kathavala road being inundated. Meanwhile, transportation along the Haliala-Walimata road came to a standstill owing to boulders rolling onto the road and earth embankments collapsing onto the road. A father and his 2 sons were killed when they were buried by an earth embankment that collapsed on their house last night in Passara. The mother is currently employed abroad. Meanwhile, heavy rain also hampered day-to-day activities in the Hambantota district. The Batayatha area of the Colombo-Hambantota road went underwater. This was the manner in which the Vatia area in Angunukola Palassa was underwater. Lowlands in Suryawava and Mahagalwava were also underwater. This is the Ambulantota police station. The Paddy Research Institute in Hambantota was also affected by the floods. Meanwhile, 300 houses in the village of Siribopura, Salyapura and Hambantota South were also inundated. This is the manner in which the Katugastora area along the Kandy Matale road was inundated. Meanwhile, fallen trees disrupted transport along the Matale-Rattota road. Line houses in the Ikoloi estate in Rattala were damaged by gushing waters. The Matale District Disaster Management Unit said that 6 persons have been reported missing.
Extreme weather has battered many parts of the island in the past few days. Our News First correspondents visited the most affected areas today.
Extreme weather has battered many parts of the island in the past few days. Our News First correspondents visited most of the affected areas today. Manjula Premaratna, who is in Matale right now, reports on the latest situation there.
I am currently at the Nikoloyawate estate in Rattota Matale. Several homes were washed away by this flash flood last night. Behind me there used to be a line housing scheme. The heavy rains last night caused a major rock slide and the houses were washed away in the flash flood. Area residents have told us that several residents of this line housing scheme are currently missing. I was able to see the army, police and officials from the divisional secretariat taking measures to rapidly evacuate people from the area. I must state that the Nikoloyawate estate continues to be a high risk area. We will continue to remain here to bring you the very latest.
We now cross over to Pradeep Gunawardana, who is in Dambulla for the very latest.
I
am currently on the main road from Dambulla to Bakamuna, which has been completely inundated. As a result of the road being inundated, traffic has come to a complete standstill. This road was inundated as a result of the Yodala breaking its banks. Several other reservoirs and waterways are also overflowing. The sluice gates of the Kandalama tank have also been opened.
Ajanta Ratnayaka reports now from Kurunegala.
Day-to-day life in Kurunegala has come to a virtual standstill as a result of the prevailing extreme weather. We were also able to see how the flow of traffic has been disrupted on several main roads as a result of floodwaters. As a result of Yakkalla and Yaggapite on the Kurunegala-Dambulla main road being inundated, we witnessed severe congestion along the main road. Reports say that as a result of the Daduroi and other rivers and waterways overflowing, over 4,000 families have been displaced.
And for details of the situation down south, Rahul Samanta now joins us from Ambulantota.
As a result of the Wallawe River and other waterways overflowing with the heavy rains that battered the Hambantota district, over 1,500 families have been displaced. Several institutions such as the police station and the Paddy Research Institute in Ambulantota have been inundated as a result of the Wallawe River breaking its banks.
Now the following is a report on the areas that received the highest rainfall and the disaster situation.